Good morning. Welcome to the Bill Collins Show. When you got a story to tell, this is the place to be. And let me tell you something. Today, we are truly blessed because we got a guy who's got a story to tell that's incredible. He is the winningest football coach ever. 622 wins over a decade of 7-decade coaching career. His name is John McKissick, and he's well known all over this country. And I am truly lucky to have him with us here in the studio today. Coach, welcome. Glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You are one of those people, a lot of people say, well, he's a legend. Well, you truly are a legend. You truly are a legend.
I'm an old man, sir.
No, I don't know about that, but you have done such remarkable things in your career as coaching, and I wanted to ask you first of all to tell me how you determined early on that coaching was what you wanted to do, because the funny thing in this day and time, Coach, I've known a lot of kids in their 30s and they're still kind of bouncing around from job to job. They can't figure out what career they want or what they want to do. Apparently you decided pretty early on to get into coaching. And tell me how that came about, what your early life was like.
Well, Bill, back when I was in high school, they didn't have the 12th grade. They had 8, 9, 10, and 11 was the high school. And the 7th grade was like junior high. So I started playing football when I was in the 7th grade. And then I moved up to the varsity in the 8th grade.
Now that was a little town of Kingstree, South Carolina?
Kingstree, South Carolina.
Which is maybe 60, 70 miles from Charleston.
Right, about 60 miles, I'd say, from Summerville. And the coach, when I was in the 7th grade, I went on to varsity. But Kingstree won the state championship, and we won it in Columbia. And I was on the traveling part. They took the JV team too, but I didn't play in the game. But we beat Olympia High School in Columbia, who was a powerhouse back then, out there in the Mill Village. And they had some good players, the Jeff Coates, and you've probably heard of them.
Right, some of those.
And we won the game 7-6. And I remember the feeling and the excitement of the coach and all the players. And then when I went out for varsity, Jimmy Welch was the head coach, and he always looked like he was having fun, and he looked like he really enjoyed what he was doing. And I think it made an impression on me at the time. He's having fun.
That coaching business must be a fun business to get into.
It must be a good business to be in. And that's kind of how I got started. And then from there, the war was going on. And World War...
this was Korean War.
World War II.
Oh, World War II, yeah, at the time.
Yeah, a lot of people laugh and say, Coach, you sure it wasn't World War I? But anyway, it was World War II. And all the big University of South Carolina, Clemson, and all those schools, they were running a 3-semester year instead of 2 semesters and a summer school. So I graduated from high school the last of May, June the 5th, I went to Clemson to get in that semester. And then what happened when I was at Clemson, my name came up on the draft board in Kingstree, so I went to Dr. Poole, who was the president at Clemson at the time, and asked him would he write me a letter so I could go to the draft board and maybe get deferred till I finished the semester. He said, I'll be glad to, but I'm not sure. So I took the letter to him. They said, no, you're not, we need them.
We need you.
We need you. So I went to service, and I remember at Fort Jackson they had 3 lines. They had a Navy line, a Marine line, and an Army line. Well, the longest line was Navy, and the next was Marine, and then wasn't nobody in
The Army line.
in the Army line. So when I got to the front of the line, they said, "I'm sorry, we filled up." So I ended up in the Army. I had to go in the Army, and then when I was in the Army, I decided that I wanted to be a paratrooper. So if you were about 6 foot tall and in good shape, you could volunteer, and they were taking volunteers because the 101st Airborne was just about wiped out in the invasion of Normandy.
Right.
So I got into Airborne and went through the Airborne training at Fort Benning,
Fort
Georgia.
Benning, jump school.
The jump school, and when I finished that, I had a 30-day delayed route to Fort Ord, California, to join the 17th Airborne, which was on paper, we found out later, was supposed to be invade Japan.
Okay.
Do the homeland. But anyway, that's when Harry Truman ordered the bomb
Dropped the bomb, and that kept you from going to Japan.
That kept me from going to Japan. So we got orders to report to Fort Bragg, and the 82nd was coming back from Europe. So we joined the 80, they put us into the 82nd Airborne. And that's where I stayed till I got out.
So you got out and you said, now what am I going to do now that I'm out of the Army?
Right. Well, I played football in the Army, and they had a football team, and so I had a scholarship.
What position did you play?
I was a fullback and linebacker. That's when you had to play both ways.
Both ways?
Played both ways, and there wasn't free substitution back then. So I went to PC on the football scholarship.
Who was the coach at PC when you?
Monty McMillan was the coach, and I can't think of his name right now. Was athletic director.
Okay.
Walter Johnson.
Walter Johnson
Was athletic director. So when I was at PC, we had a squad of about 45 guys, and it was only 5 guys right out of high school. Most all of them were
returning military?
Returning military, and that was good for the school because our tuition was paid by the military.
Right.
And so all they had to do was give us room and board for a scholarship. So that's how it ended up. And
what kind of? Do you remember what kind of record PC had when you were there?
I don't know. I remember Walter Johnson, the athletic director, would walk around patting back him where his wallet was. We opened up with Clemson. We played Miami. We played Wake Forest.
So y'all were mincemeat for some of the bigger schools, but you had to raise money, and that's the way you did it.
And that's how they got the money. And
sure.
I remember the year before I started playing at PC, they beat Clemson, and Frank Howard made the statement that PC will never score on me again. So when I played against them the next year, Blake Watts, the guy who was the fastest guy in the state, we had him as a running back, and he scored on the first play, about 70 yards, but we ended up losing 30-something to 7.
Well, you get out of PC, and I think, if I remember correctly, your first coaching job was actually up in North Carolina for a short period of time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I went to the dean of students at PC, and I said, I need a recommendation because I'm gonna get I want to get a job, and I'd finished in the middle of the year because of those courses that I had at Clemson before. They counted them after I took a test. And so I finished in January, and of course I was hanging around the house in Kingstree, and my daddy told me one morning, he said, "Son, it's nice to have you here. I'd like to have you on weekends, but not full time."
You need to get a job.
You need to get a job. So I had a brother that lived on Trent Street in Charleston. So I called him, and he had a room, so I went out there and got the newspaper and to get me a job till football season started in August. So I took a job with Commercial Credit, and the ad said an adjuster. Well, I didn't know what an adjuster was. So, but I wanted the job, and so I took the job, and adjuster was nothing but a collector.
You were collecting people who owed money on car loans they'd made or something like that?
Yeah, in other words, and I felt empathy for people who couldn't pay for the car. Well, what I was supposed to do, I was supposed to repossess the car, take it to the dealer, store it, and when they got the money, they'd go there and pay the dealer, and the dealer.
You must have had some stories. You must have some stories to tell about that. Did you have any close calls when you went to take somebody's car away?
Yeah, I was in Ridgeland one time, and I told the guy he was 2 payments behind. I said, I got to take your car. And I had a hard time telling him that, but that's what I was supposed to do. And he handed me the keys, then he reached behind the door and pulled out a shotgun. I said, what's that for? He said, drive the car out of here, and I'll show you. So I hand him the keys. I hand him the keys back.
I believe you can keep this car.
Yeah, so I knew right then I was in the wrong business. So I went home to Kingstree one weekend, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was wanting a job coaching. And I happened to run into this fellow who'd married a girl from Clarkston, North Carolina. And she had taught me in high school. So he said, I know where you can get a coaching job. I said, well, he said, the coach just resigned in Clarkston, North Carolina, and I can get you, I know the people, I'll call. He was a lawyer there in Kingstree. So he called, and I took the job over the telephone.
That's great. Now, Clarkston where is that in North Carolina?
About 10 miles on the other side of Whiteville.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Over in the Lumberton.
Right. I know about where you're talking about.
So I took the job and got there, and come to find out it was 6-man football. It was a small school.
Yeah.
And they played like Bladenburg, Dixiana, and all those schools. And so I called up Coach Mack, my college coach, and he and I always got along good because I worked hard. And I said, I got me a job coaching football, and 6-man football. And I don't know anything about 6-man football. He said, Mac, you don't know anything about 11-man football. So I took the job anyhow, and they had an 8-game schedule, and those small schools didn't do a playoff. We won 7 and lost 1.
That's terrific. That's terrific.
So then the job in Summerville came open, and when I was working with the finance company, I'd made a friend with the Dodge Plymouth dealer here in Summerville. His last name was Ford, I can't remember his first name. And I'd go in to check his floor plan, and if a car was missing, he was supposed to give me a check.
Yeah.
And sometime I'd let him go for a week or 2. So I wasn't cut out for that kind of business, but anyway, the job in Summerville came open, and they had a little party for me when I left commercial credit, and he knew where I was, so he called me and said, the job in Summerville's open. I know the board members, Mary Jones, Senior, all those, Evan Salisbury,
yeah.
All those guys were on the board. So I got the job. They offered me the job.
And you started what? I think 1952 you came here. Came to Summerville, South Carolina, 1952.
Yeah, and so that's how I got started here in Summerville. One of the first people that you met when you came to Summerville from working with the paper, you interviewed me.
Absolutely, that was in 1972. And I remember then saying, gosh, Coach, you've been here 20 years. You really did well. I didn't realize you had another 43 to go, but it's terrific. Well, Coach, so you got to Summerville in 1952 as the coach here at Summerville High School. I think they had a fairly successful program before you got here under Harvey Kirkland, who left here to go on to be a coach at Newberry College, I believe.
Yeah, and that's how the job came open. And he had been successful here, a real good guy and a good coach. And but he was the only coach. We were a small school here in Summerville, I remember the first year that I was coach, we had a principal, Don Crowley, who was his first year. And he asked me to help him register the students
So yeah.
on the first day. So we went to the auditorium. He said, everybody taking 12th grade English, go over here to Miss Nicholson. Everybody taking math, go over here to Captain Harris. So that's how we registered them. But anyway, we had 280 students in the top 4 grades when I came.
280.
So I was the only coach, and I coached all the sports. I coached football, then I went into girls basketball, boys basketball. At the same time, I coached the girls, send them home, and coached the boys. And then when that was over, I was baseball coach. So I coached baseball, and I wonder why we didn't have tracks. So I added track.
And you had to coach that as well?
Yeah, after baseball. When you're young, you think you can do anything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I was the only coach, and that's how I got started.
That is terrific. I bet you remember how much money you made that first year. Do you remember? I bet folks wouldn't believe it.
I made $3,000, taught 5 classes. I majored in social studies. They didn't have a PE major at PC. And then I minored in math. So I was teaching 4 social history courses and a couple of math courses. And making the $3,000 a year. And so I went to the superintendent. Frank Kirk was the superintendent, nice guy, little guy. And I said, Mr. Kirk, I can't live on $3,000 a year. I says, I got to have a raise. And I said, I know I haven't proved myself, but that's just not enough money. He said, I'll tell you what, I can help you. I said, how you going to help me? He said, get your wife a job. So I got Joanne a job over there at Summerville Elementary with Miss Muckenfoos, Frances Muckenfoos, and she didn't like it at all. She didn't like that. So she saw an ad where the post office was hiring clerks, so she took the test and passed that, and they paid a lot more than teachers.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So she took that job, and
so that's how you got your raise. You had to get your wife to get a job. So yeah.
But anyway, I said, "Thank you, sir." What else you gonna say?
Well, do you remember your first year? What your first year in Summerville was like on the gridiron?
Yeah, Bobby Bunch had played quarterback for Harvey his last year, and that was the only bad season that Harvey had. Yeah, he'd won 2 state championships right in a row before that, and so Bobby Bunch was my first quarterback, and he was a good one. He went on and played
Carolina.
Played at Carolina, and then we won our first game. I'll never forget. We were playing up in Hampton, and it was called Wade Hampton. It was Barnville.
Yeah, up in that part of South Carolina.
Yeah, and we won that game, and we had a good season. We won 9 and lost 1.
That was a great way to start.
That was a good way to start. Bobby Bunch had a lot to do with that. And then after that class.
Was he a senior that year?
Yeah, he was a senior. And then Jerry Nettles followed him.
Okay.
And then Jerry, we won 2 state championships right in a row with Jerry at quarterback. You know, they say a good coach needs 3 things. He needs a patient wife, a loyal dog, and a good quarterback, but not necessarily in that order. So that's kind of how.
Well, did you have a dog?
No, I didn't.
You never did get the dog?
No, I finally did. Got a little dog.
Well, I know you had a patient wife, because she has been quite an asset to you for many, many years. And,
she sure has.
And continues to be, and she's just incredible. She kept stats, she kept a lot of memorabilia over your career, and she's just a delightful person. And she had a long career at the post office, I believe, as a kid, 30 years there. Yeah. And got to know a lot about the low country, about the Summerville area.
Yeah, she knew where everybody lived.
Yeah, she was
on the street.
Rural carrier, I believe, wasn't she?
Yeah,
So
she ended up as rural carrier. She worked in the post office to start with, and then when rural routes came open. Summerville, when we came here, it didn't go out.
Right.
You just had to run a box and get your mail at the post office.
Come pick it up at the post office.
Yeah, so she took the rural route.
That's incredible.
And liked it.
I guess one of the things that a lot of people would want to know, or hear you talk about a little bit, Coach, is what did you do over those 7 decades to inspire young men, boys, to give their best on the gridiron, on the football field?
Well, I think, Bill, if you look back, and a lot of the older people remember, I was known all over for not cutting people because of talent. If a guy came out for football, whether he had any talent for the game or not, if he followed the rules and did what I required him to do, then he made the team.
He had a chance. He had
a chance. And then when we'd get ahead, I'd put him in the game. And that's one reason that the fans, if you got 90 guys out there on the sideline, you got their parents and their friends. And
you got enough to fill up the stands.
We filled up the stands. You remember that?
Oh, absolutely. I remember coming, when I just moved here in '72 when I started my newspaper, and I can remember we lived and bought an old house next door to the stadium down there, the house we bought from Dr. Missouri. And he had been the team doctor, I think, at one time.
He was.
But there were a couple of oak trees down there, and I remember going to some of those games, and it was incredible. There were people sitting up in oak trees to watch the game because the stands were filled. It's unbelievable.
They were sitting on top of the gym.
Yeah, I know.
How they got up there, I don't know. But the fans has always been real good supporters here for me all those years.
Well, I think the football success here in Summerville has been so good for the town. It has brought the town together. It was, I think, in a lot of ways responsible for building the community spirit and the camaraderie that we have in Summerville. Some people will shut their businesses down a little early to get over there to the games.
They used to say all over the state, don't try to buy anything in Summerville on Friday night.
Because it's closed.
Everything's closed up. And I think one thing about the athletics here in Summerville is back when they closed Austin and brought together just one high school, we never had a problem. And I think
that was when they first integrated here. Never had any issues in Summerville.
Never had a big issue. And my first 2 players was Harry Blake and Eddie Felder, and
Harry Blake's one of the fastest people alive.
They were good players, and everything just went real smooth, and I think it was because of athletics.
I think that's terrific. How important is physical fitness in the football program? And today they seem to be working out all the time, getting stronger and stronger and faster. Even early on in your career, it was critically important.
Yeah, we didn't have a weight room, and I remember the first weight machine I bought. It was a 7-man machine. You'd go around the machine. They had pull-ups and sit-ups and all that.
Like 7 stations, guys could work out.
7 stations, and I went to the superintendent, and he said we don't have the money to buy it. So Chick Myler bought it for me.
Community support.
Community support. He bought it, and we lift those weights, and the kids knew. If they were stronger, that it gave them confidence. And I'd always tell them, I said, if that guy's stronger than you, he's gonna whip you on the line. Mm-hmm. It caught on real fast.
Survival of the fittest.
That's right. You gotta be in good physical shape. You won't get hurt. You'll get hurt, but you won't get injured. It's a difference between being hurt. If you get a good hard lick, you're going to be hurting.
Sure.
But an injury would be like tearing a cartilage, a ligament, a broken bone.
Probably, John, back in the early days, you probably didn't have, you didn't have trainers, did you?
We didn't have a trainer.
Yeah.
If a guy got hurt, we either had to stop practice and take care of him, the coach
Yeah.
did. And then when you got trainers, everything, I mean, that's the greatest thing ever happened to high school football and college football and all.
Well, it enabled you to help take care of the guys, of the players, and got some of that off of you as the coach.
Yeah, a good trainer, he's trained to take care of little things, big things, and all that. And then the coach, he's trying to get the team ready for the next week. He don't want to have to take 30 minutes out for an injured player.
Yeah.
I remember we had a guy that break his middle finger in practice one day, and Buford Blanton was coaching with me at the time, so Buford took him down to Dr. Meserva's office after practice, and Dr. Meserva told me, he said, don't ever send that man down here with an injured player, said, because I gave the boy a shot before I sent it, and Buford fainted. So that's how we did it back then. I teased Buford about that right there. He don't deny it, he just laughs.
Did Buford play for you?
No, Buford.
He was a little bit older. He graduated maybe 51, didn't he?
Buford, Bobby Drawdy, and all the Bo Bear and all that bunch graduated a year before 2 years before I
50,
did.
51, yeah.
And they were all in college playing. Bo was at Furman, Buford was at the Citadel. And
Barney Miller, did Barney go off to school somewhere?
he played in Erskine.
Erskine.
Erskine had a football team back
I didn't
then.
know Erskine never had a football team.
Yeah, they had a football team.
How about
When
that?
I was at PC, we used to play Erskine. That was our easy game.
And also, I'd like for you to talk about maybe some of the players that you've had over those years. Some who went on to play professional ball. For example, today we got A.J. Green, and I believe, I'm correct, I believe A.J. is the only person that played for you whose jersey's been retired at Summerville High. Is that right?
That's correct. He was such a great player, and he still is. And I can remember when he was on JV in the 8th grade, watching him, and I said, man, I'd be glad when we can get him up, we can bring him up to the varsity, but an 8th grader can't be on the varsity.
Yeah.
And couldn't.
Well, my daughter taught him, I think in the 4th grade, when he was at Beach Hill Elementary School. And Melissa tells me, my daughter Melissa was a teacher there, and she tells me that A.J. was always about throwing the football, and she said he was so much bigger and stronger and everything than everybody else in his class, and they went out at recess, she had to throw the football because the others couldn't throw it. Like he liked to be challenged, and apparently he did, and he is, I think, one of the best set of hands I've ever seen.
I think what made A.J. real good, he practiced just like he played. If the quarterback threw the ball short, he would dive back on the ground and practice.
Yeah.
And try to catch it. If it was over his head, he'd jump up and fall. I was afraid he was going to get hurt. He practiced so hard, and that's what
Kind of set him apart.
Set him apart from the rest.
Well, he's now with Cincinnati, and he is truly in the big leagues. And
Well, he scored a touchdown yesterday.
Absolutely.
Sunday.
absolutely Sunday, he did.
But anyway, he was one of the good ones, and like I say, Keith Jennings played tight end for the Chicago Bears. I remember Stanford Jennings with Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. He caught the touchdown, kickoff, and scored on a 95-yard run. They didn't kick it, they didn't get it to the end zone.
Ran it all the way back.
They ran it all the way back, and Montana came back and won the game for the 49ers in the last couple of minutes. If it hadn't been for that, Stanford would have been voted the most outstanding player in that game.
How about that?
And he was a tailback and a good guy.
How about Kevin Long? Kevin went on to play professional ball, I did.
I remember when Kevin first started playing, he was first string offensive guard in the 9th grade. And he got better and better, and he played real hard. And when he was a senior, we had coaches from all over the country coming down to recruit him. And I remember I remember Bobby Bowden from
Florida State. Yeah.
Florida State flew into Charleston, and they asked me to pick him up, and he flew in there on a jet. He had a private jet, the school did.
Yeah.
And then Clemson came in, and they won a prop thing. And so there was a lot of joking about what they were, about the money that they put in recruiting. But anyway, Steve Spurrier came and sat in my office 2 hours when Kevin was a senior. He wanted him at Florida. And Steve, I enjoyed meeting him. He is really a nice guy to sit down and just talk to. And football wasn't mentioned one time in that time. He mentioned about growing up as a minister's son and going to Florida and winning the Heisman, and he gave everybody else credit. And but anyway, he wanted him real bad, but
he chose Florida State, didn't he?
And made All-American.
Yeah.
And then I remember watching him in the Super Bowl. They played for the championship too in the Super Bowl, and he was a starting offensive center, and just an outstanding player. And he played so hard. He hurt his shoulder, and he had shoulder operation. He did all, so he retired after about 8 years.
Last time he played for the Titans, Tennessee Titans.
Tennessee Titans,
Yeah.
that's who he played for.
Yeah.
And he was a good one, and a good kid. And we've had the Nesbitt who played for Omar.
Omar Nesbitt, yeah.
Yeah, he played for the Carolina Panthers. He ended up at New Orleans, and they played the Super Bowl at the time.
They come a long way from Summerville when they get to the Super Bowl, ain't it, Coach?
Yeah, he lives in Charlotte now. We played up there a couple of years ago. My last year, we played up Charlotte, and he was at the game. He came down. We talked about old times. And his brother is coaching our offensive line now.
Oh, is that right?
Omar.
Okay.
And this was Jamar, was the oldest.
Oldest.
Played at Carolina.
Coach, let's see, 10 state titles. Is that right? Am I remembering right?
10.
That's a pretty good, strong record there.
Well, we had about 4 other ones we played for and didn't win it. But so Coach can't win the big one.
Well, let me tell you, what you've accomplished here in Summerville will never be matched anywhere in the country, I think. And it's a record to be proud of, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard, living here for the past 45 years, people say, not only is it important, the won-loss record and everything, but the lives of the young men that you touched and how they've gone on to be successful because of things they learned on the football field.
Well, it's been a lot of them, and they all, you were asking me earlier about discipline. I invited the players out, and I would write a letter to the player and a letter to the parent, and told them what I expected and everything. And I would invite them out, and a parent that wanted their kid to play and didn't get a letter, they'd call me on the phone.
Say, what?
What happened? Why come? I said, well, he hadn't been in the weight room, he hadn't been doing the things he ought to do, but I'll give him a shot at it if he really wants to go by the rules. So that's how it started out with the discipline, and you about the long hair. I've had.
You see that today, long hair and earrings and everything else. You know, I guess that's the fad today. You didn't have any of that during your coaching career, did you?
Well, when in the '60s, during the hippie movement, they tried me out a little bit, and I never told a guy face to face that he had to cut his hair. If it was too long, I thought it was too long. Then after practice, we always ran wind sprints, and I'd let them go according to insanity. the guys with the long hair, they didn't get to go. So they caught on right quick.
They need to trim that hair up a little bit.
I had a guy that transferred here from Stratford, was a good player. He came in my office and I thought he was a girl at first. His hair was down on me. I said, son, you might be a good player, but you can't play for me. He said, why is that? I said, your hair's too long. And it's not sanitary in the helmets and all when you're sweating.
Yeah.
So he left, came back the next day and he had it shaved. He shaved it, and he turned out to be a good player and a good guy.
I think the last thing, Coach, we're going to talk about a little bit is, I'm trying to remember, John, I think one time you used to tell stories about people used to say, you know, the thing about Coach McKissick, he doesn't believe in throwing the ball. When you say there were 3 things that happen when you throw the ball?
Yeah.
2 of them are bad?
2 of them are bad.
Incomplete interception.
Yeah.
But maybe you could talk a little bit about your philosophy of the game.
Okay.
I think you had said earlier, you think one of the things that's critical is you got to be stronger than your opponent. Otherwise they're going to move you around on the line. You got to be physically fit. You got to be fast. You got to execute. We're talking with Coach John McKissick, who's the winningest football coach ever. 621 wins over his career of 63 years here in Summerville, South Carolina, just out of Charleston. Coach, what sort of is the philosophy you have about football? What does it take to develop a winning program?
Bill, I think I break the philosophy down into 3 things. You got an offensive philosophy, you got a defensive philosophy, and then you got an overall philosophy. And mine was to always be in better shape than the other team. I try to be. Never cut a guy who was working hard, whether he had any talent or not. They made the team. And I never did stress that they had to win or they wouldn't be on the squad. But with the way you approach it and your work ethic, they realized that that's what they needed to do. And I'd always tell them, I said, we're going to practice 2 hours, sometime an hour and 45 minutes. And I said, the team that we're playing, they're doing the same thing. They all about just like you, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. We aren't going to play college. We play in a high school team.
Yeah.
Why not outwork them and win the ball game? And you know, there's an old saying that things are never as bad as they seem, and things are never as good as they seem. But I'm gonna tell you, they seem good when you win. You've been prepared and trying to win.
Absolutely.
It was just like a math class. When I was teaching a math class, a guy that would fail the exam, I felt bad. The guy that got it, I said, well, I've done a good job with some of them. And that's kind of how it is in athletics too.
Terrific, terrific. Well, one other thing, over the years, as the coach here at Summerville, I know you had the opportunity to meet many major college coaches all over the country who came here to recruit. Steve Spurrier, you mentioned Bobby Bowden. They were in admiration of your program, and they followed your program here because of its reputation. You, I think, John, probably had opportunities throughout the past 60 years to go into college coaching, leave high school and go into college. Why did you never do that? What kept you here?
Well, what kept me here was my family mostly. My 2 daughters, they didn't want to leave. My wife loved Summerville and still does, and she didn't want to leave. And that had a lot to do with it. But anyway, I went for an interview at the Citadel when that job came open. And when I went in for the interview, it was in a motel out there by the I-26. And the first question that the chairman of the committee asked me, and I think it's an old Summerville name, Julius Benoit.
Yeah.
And he asked the first question. He said, "Coach, why in the devil would you want this job?" I said, "I didn't say I wanted it." So I didn't get it, and Art Baker was at Furman at the time, and he wanted to leave Furman, so he took the job.
He took the civil job.
And it paid $25,000 a year.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that now with the millions they make? And I was making 23 at Summerville, so I wasn't about to get that up and go to college coaching. And I'm glad that I didn't see the pasture green on the other side of the fence. I stayed here, and luckiest guy in the world to have gotten the job in Summerville. And,
Well,
the fan support that I've had has been great.
Well, you've got a record that'll never be matched anywhere. Last thing I want to ask you is, Friday Night Lights was about your life for the past 7 decades, out there on that field every Friday night. On Saturdays, did John McKissick watch college football, or Sundays, did you watch NFL? Tell me a little bit, did you get into some of that, or?
I like college football, and I still do. And I like the Citadel, I like Carolina, I like Clemson. And I guess if they playing each other, I pull for Clemson because I went to Clemson before I was drafted. And so I enjoy watching them. And the pros, I like to watch if I know a player, like AJ. I look at that, and D'Angelo Hempson, he's with Denver now. He played for me and then played up at Coastal.
Yeah.
So I watch them, and I watch the ones that I know real good, and I've met a lot of them. So I love the college game more than I do. I love high school and college game.
Well, I think the last question is, what do you do in retirement? How are you handling retirement? Fellows who worked as long as you have, how do you spend your days now?
Bill, it's hard. I get asked that question a lot of times, how you doing, Coach? And what I do on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm not trying to advertise for the Palms, but I go out to their YMCA, and I work on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, unless something comes up and interrupts it, but that's what I stick to, and get on the treadmill, the bicycle, and some of those machines and exercise. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm kind of lost, so I'll go get in the car and go uptown and go to the drugstore or go somewhere and get some coffee and meet some friends and around like that. But and then on weekends, every other weekend, we'll go over and check out
the beach house.
The beach house, and be sure nobody's broken in and everything's all right. So,
Coach, I want to thank you for the interview. This is a book that Coach wrote back, I think it was in '91. I have to go check the date, 90 or 91, I believe, called Call to Coach. John McKissick, winningest football coach ever. Coach, thank you so much for this interview, and best wishes to you going forward, and maybe we could talk you into coming out on the golf course one day.
Well, I'll tell you what, that would be amusing. I love the game, but I never did play it enough to really get good at it.
Well, I played a lot, and I'm terrible. So thank you so much for tuning in today. For a man of my age and habits, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I've enjoyed being with you and Wendell today, and I've had a good time.
Terrific. Thank you.